All right, this video, we're going to be talking about the two types of thinking. Now, this is derived from the book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's written by Daniel Kahneman. You might recognize that name from our Foundations of Behavioral Finance section, which talked about him and his research partner, Amos Tversky, about prospect theory. And so when I was leafing through it just now, I saw a fourfold factor of prospect theory as a chapter. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's my world. That's what I love to teach. And so that's the previous section, though. This is all about thinking fast and slow. Now, we like to think about, in this class, thinking fast and slow as either type 1 or type 2. And so type 1 is essentially our fast. If you're referring to the book, this is our fast. Type 1. And this is our automatic, non-cognitive thinking. Automatic, non-cognitive thoughts. Once again, this is essentially our cruise control, our mental cruise control. And once again, we conserve our mental energy around this type 1 thinking. It saves us a lot of brain power and energy. And so I think of an example here of morning routine, not thinking about much, waking up, and if I have my act together, I try to do 3 things I'm grateful for before I touch my phone or go to bed or before I get out of bed. But then it's usually check the phone, see if I have any messages, and then before I know it, I'm heading to the bathroom. And after that, I know some people like to say, oh, I brush my teeth and take a shower. I'll be honest with you, I don't do that right away, because once that happens, I'll wash my hands. I will put on my deodorant, and I don't believe that I am OCD, but when I put on my deodorant, I will count to a certain amount, and I will make sure the other side has the same amount of swipes. If you're still listening after this, I get it. If you don't want to turn it off now, you can get your money back. But it's what I do in the morning. But right after I'm done with that, I'm going downstairs and I'm grabbing that first cup of coffee. So I don't brush my teeth right away. I'll do it after the coffee because I need to get that cup of coffee. From that cup of coffee, now I'm starting. But again, I'm talking about this out loud, and I realize it sounds strange, but I'm doing this without any thought. And I'm just kind of going through the motions. I don't use a lot of mental energy at that point. And so I always say when people are walking into my class, I'll have 30, 40 students in the class. And first day, there's no seating assignments. You just come as you are, sit down. What I find interesting is every day they sit in the same spot. And if somebody is sitting there or somebody new comes and they're sitting there, they're just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I'm supposed to sit there, even though there's no formal seating arrangement. So we ask people, okay, why are you sitting here every day? And of course, this is just, well, I always have done this. This is just the way it's been. And why overthink it? I'm just going to go sit in the spot that I've always sat in. And they'll do that time and time again. And I ask them, well, why don't you analyze every single seat every single time? Because there might be a more optimal seat for you that you could sit in each day. And again, it comes back to, no, this is non-cognitive automatic. Why would I overthink that? And you say, exactly. So there's a lot of these ways that it makes sense and we don't have to overthink it. Same thing if we're driving sometimes. If you've ever done that, where you're driving down the road and you go, oh, what happened? I don't know what happened over the last 5 or 10 minutes, but I'm still alive here. So we do have some instincts that are built in us that keep us alive while we go through these type 1 thinkings. And so we have our morning routine, classroom seating. But now we're going to dive in. There's 4 different types of the slow thinking that we're going to talk about here. Number 1 is called the self-preservation heuristics. Self-preservation. And I was just alluding to it. These are the ones that are going to keep us alive. More specifically here, if you think about if you hear a loud noise, you're without having to, your automatic response is jump away. If you have something that tastes bad in your mouth, you want to spit it out. These are all self-preservation biases that we don't have to really think about. And these will, once again, keep us alive. And I'm painting this, like I'm saying, this is not always a bad thing, these heuristics. So if we have number 2, looking at the diversification heuristic. Diversification heuristic. Diversification. And this, if you think about going to a potluck or any sort of party that has bring your own food. So you bring your food and then you can choose from a wide variety of different options. What we end up doing is we'll just naturally, if you're like me, you'll naturally take some of everything, or we'll categorize it and say, well, this is going to be my main course run. And so you take a little bit of everything and then you come back and do another plate for dessert run and you take a little bit of everything. And this is where diversification comes naturally to us. I'm not really thinking about it, but I'm also subconsciously thinking that I don't want to miss out on anything. So if somebody's talking at the table about how good a particular food is, I want to be a part of that. And so I'll do my very best to take a little bit of everything. We're going to learn a little bit later, though, that even though this diversification can come naturally, with our financial decisions, this can actually harm us and take us away from our actual asset allocation strategies that is most beneficial to us. Okay, so more on that in another section. Number 3, ambiguity aversion. Ambiguity aversion. This one says that we prefer risk over uncertainty. I want you to think about that for a second. Risk, we prefer over uncertainty. So let me show you this. You have option A here, 50-50. And then we have unknown, unknown. Which one would you prefer? There's a 50% chance that you would win, or there's an unknown chance that you would win. We prefer risk over uncertainty. And so we see this here, and even though this could be 90-10 in our favor, we just want to see the numbers so then we can go make our decision from there. And then number 4, and we'll talk more about this here in a moment, but number 4 is called law of small numbers. And we can also associate this with myopia, so short-sighted. That's also another word, myopia, and short-sightedness. When we see a small set of numbers, we associate it with the larger set of numbers. So if I'm going to piggyback off of this previous example, I'll say, well, option A remains 50-50, but what if I gave you a sample of 10, and out of that sample of 10 for B, we have 6 out of 10. And people usually go, oh, 6 out of 10, that means there should be 60 out of 100. And they'll say, okay, now I prefer B. And if we show them 4 out of 10, they'll say, well, 4 out of 10 is probably 40, and so I'm going to stick with my A choice. So law of small numbers shows that it's very short-sighted, where if we take a step back and really think about this, technically, I could have shown you all 6 of the 100 right answers here, and so it could be 694, and this could be the only 4 that are not, so this could be 96 4. So again, law of small numbers. We see this in finance when people are looking up their investments. Which funds should I invest in, or which stocks should I invest in? And usually they have very short-sighted criteria. They want to find the stocks that have performed the best in the recent past. What has done the best over the last year? I want to buy that. And obviously, this can get people in trouble because it's performed the best in the last year. It means you missed out on the party. And I'll never forget, this was the FLATX, Latin America Fund, back in the day when I was at Fidelity. And it used to be a big, thick book of all the Fidelity mutual funds. And Fidelity Latin America Fund was the best performing mutual fund of that particular last year. So, and it was all in that book. So when people would call up, they say, I want that Fidelity Latin America Fund because it performed best over the last year. And we would do our best to try to talk them out of it. But never forget, there was a lady who really wanted FLATX. Well, wouldn't you know, the very next year, we went through the financial crisis, 2007, 2008. And at the very bottom of that list of performers was, you guessed it, FLATX. And so short-sightedness, the law of small numbers, can really get us into trouble. But once again, this is our type 1, our automatic cognitive thinking. By looking at the small sample and making it to the larger sample does save us room in our brains, and oftentimes it can help us, but as we're learning here, that can hurt us as well. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to continue to roll on looking at type 2 thinking. See you there.